It's a Thursday, and I'm ready to rock and roll today. Welcome. It is Don't At Me. You see the don't? Wait. You see the at and the me. Don't at me. Although you can at me if you would like to get interactive with this. All you got to do is go to @DanDakich on Twitter. Tell me whatever you want. That I look like 10 miles of bad road, that I'm the smartest dude in the history of the world. You can also join us on YouTube at Outkick on Twitter as well. Got a lot of places you can join us, but let's jump right into it. You know, last night was an interesting night in the world of sports. Giannis Antetokounmpo, he had 47, and Milwaukee Bucks beat the Lakers. That was good. That was really good. College basketball last night. Michigan State went into Hinkle Fieldhouse. Those of us that live here in Indiana, we call Lincoln, well, we don't. No, I'm lying. We call Hinkle Fieldhouse, they call Hinkle Fieldhouse the Cathedral of Hoops. And Coach Tom Izzo said that he always wanted to bring a team into Hinkle. And, man, he brought a team into Hinkle that beat the living hell out of Butler. I was just texting with Coach Izzo right before the show started. He's going to come on my show this afternoon at 1 o'clock on 107.5 The Fan. But one of the things in coming to Butler that makes a trip to Butler or anywhere else good is, guess what? Winning. His team last night, second half, started shooting the ball. First half, couldn't really shoot the ball, but got in a defensive stance. When you're looking at college basketball, as you start to think about college basketball, Michigan State is going to be pretty damn good. Mark my words. Just told him that. Love his team. Not there yet, but going to be really good. Gabe Brown, really good. Kid named Max Christie, really good, can shoot the basketball, athletic, move. Anyway, second game of the night last night was my beloved Indiana Hoosiers. The Red Storm of St. John's came in. Now, the Red Storm have a kid named Julian Champagny, who I think might be a first-team All-American. The dude dropped 32 last night in Assembly Hall, in front of all the screaming and yelling students, 17,000 strong. The joint was jumping. Mike Woodson, the head coach at Indiana. His first real test. Indiana passed the test because they got the win. And Indiana fans are jumping up and down. Oh, the defense. I don't know. See, here's the thing. Archie Miller's teams played pretty damn good defense at different times during Archie's career. It really did. People didn't notice because they lost and we all disliked Archie Miller. Mike Woodson's team played pretty good defense against a team that in the first half was looking like this, shell-shocked. Anyway, they got the win. Nice bucket late by Race Thompson, and Indiana took off. Well, they didn't take off. They ended up winning 76-74 in a game that I feel like was much closer than it should have been. You know, I think Indiana's a better basketball team than that. The story of the night, though, I think anyway, the story of the night is Hard Knocks. Hard Knocks started in the early 2000s, which is amazing to me. I didn't realize that. And Hard Knocks on HBO Max, has always been, it's always been the preseason. They've always shown you, I don't know, what happens during camp and guys moving in, being away from their families, you know, that kind of stuff. And then I always thought the most riveting part of Hard Knocks, the other Hard Knocks, not the in-season one, I'll get to it, was cutting guys. Like, one of the reasons I never wanted to be a high school basketball coach is I did not want to cut kids. I didn't have any problem as a college basketball coach kicking a kid off if he did something really stupid, or keeping a kid if he did really something stupid and working through it, whatever needed to happen. I had no problem with either of it. But I never liked to cut kids. My wife just walked downstairs, the lovely Lee Ross, you met her yesterday. She didn't like cutting kids in it either. But I want to do it. So you get in the NFL, and you got to have these meetings where you cut people, and basically what you're doing is you're cutting their dream, right? In some cases, you're giving them an opportunity. That was the most riveting part, I thought, of the preseason Hard Knocks. This is the first time ever Hard Knocks went into the regular season. And I got to tell you, I loved it. I'm an open critic of the Indianapolis Colts. Like, I am of the ilk, whatever it is, that just win when it comes to the NFL. In college sports, early in the year, man, we're getting better. Yay, Rod, go fight, win. That's great. And I learned very quickly as a college basketball coach, you can raise all the money for the school. You can graduate all the players. You can fight through it. It don't matter. If you don't win, you're gone. No matter the excuse. I lost my career because I had, in my 10 years at Bowling Green, 7 times I had my best 2 players injured. 5 out of the 10 years, I had my 3 best players injured. Now, during the year, everybody said, what a great job you're doing. Man, I can't believe how great you're coaching. And then when you didn't win enough, regardless of the circumstance, you're out. So I learned that lesson. And the NFL is that times 100. So I've gotten tired of listening to media guys. There's a guy, Greg Rosenthal, on the NFL.com or NFLnetwork.com that rated Chris Ballard, the general manager of the Colts, as the number 1 general manager in the NFL. Chris Ballard has a losing record. Chris Ballard inherited a team that hadn't had a losing record in the previous 5 years under Ryan Grigson. So to rank him as the number 1 general manager is just media hype. The Colts are known for 2 things. 1, they're on a 10-year plan because they haven't won anything. And 2, the most overrated regime ever. Because everybody loves Frank Reich and everybody loves Chris Ballard. I do too. I'm a big Chris. I don't know Reich well, but I know Ballard and I love the guy. But as a broadcaster, you got to be honest, and they have been, to this point, mediocre at best. But last night, I think you saw a side of an entire organization that really wants to make you root for them. Let me go through a few things. Like 7 or 8 of the Colts are having babies. That's a lot of sex. Colts are getting after it. There's something in the water here in Indy. And you know what? When you're kind of trapped in the house, what are you going to do? I don't know. It's cold in Indy. It's pandemic in Indy. Not much to do in Indy. Have some babies. That's what the Colts did. And I thought all that was really cool. I don't dislike this. I hate, and I don't hate many things. I don't use hate. I hate the whole gender reveal thing. I hate the whole, I'm going to get a balloon and it's going to be pink or it's going to be blue. Now, stop it. Look, it's great, and this is going to sound sexist, that's fine, but it's great if that's what you want to do. But me, as an adult male, I don't want to do it. I don't want to. I've been trying to talk my wife, Lee, into having another baby. I'm 59. She's 50. I'm not saying her age. The last thing we would ever do is a gender reveal. But I kind of thought the Colts thing in the middle of the field was cool. A bit staged. And you could tell the difference in guys like me that say, I don't like the gender reveal. I think it's idiotic, but that's just me. But you can tell the guys there, Ryan Kelly, Mike Lewinsky, really liked it. So if they like it, hey, who cares what I think? I thought that was really cool. I think Jimmy Irsay, we will rock you, was perfect Jimmy Irsay. Now, those of you that are watching this and don't know the Colts, you've read about Jimmy Irsay. He's had a number of problems, but Jimmy Irsay is a really good-hearted dude. Jimmy Irsay is one of those guys that inherited the team from his father, but everybody respects him. Why? Because Jimmy Irsay, the owner of the Colts, started from the ground up, tile guy. You know, worked his way through things, learned the organization, and players love him. Now, the whole we will rock you thing, it's cheesy, it's ridiculous, but it's Jimmy Irsay. There's a camera, he's the owner, screw it. I'm going to get in the middle of it and do this we will rock you thing. The other thing that I really like is Carson Wentz, the other person that I really liked. And I call it a thing actually for a reason. You got to understand, Carson Wentz comes to Indianapolis, and like all the liberal media everywhere in the country, they all have an opinion. They're all going to tell you should be masked up. Well, Carson Wentz didn't get vaccinated. Carson Wentz made his own choice, he and his wife. All right? So what does our local media do? Carson Wentz, bad guy. Carson Wentz, bad leader. Carson Wentz, bad teammate. You got to understand, the local media in Indianapolis are the guys that wore the jockstrap on their head. Like, where does this go? Not one of them's ever been in the locker room at any kind of level to ask any question, to do anything other than ask any questions. Never played in college. I mean, I guess a couple played a little bit in high school and they'll tell you about it. But they don't know. And that was the other thing. It showed you how much the media absolutely has no idea. These guys, let me talk about Carson Wentz for a minute. I get that, well, in Philadelphia, man, we got cheesesteaks. Hey, man, cheesesteaks, our team suck, and we yell and scream, and we think we're tough. Shut up. Philly's the least tough city in the world. You kidding me? Ain't a damn thing tough. You know what there is tough about Philly? Their mouths. For eating, for talking, and for backing down. That's all Philly has. So if you're not liked and you're Carson Wentz, you should feel good that you're not liked in Philly. Seriously. If you ever watch a fight in Philadelphia, you know how they have those fights in the stands? If there's ever one in Philadelphia, it's always 2 or 3 guys ganging up on one because all they are is mouths. I learned that a long freaking time ago. Hey, man, it's Philly. Yeah, okay, it's Philly. What does that mean? Stuff a cheesecake in your mouth, back down from a fight when somebody comes back at you, and tell everybody you kicked their ass. So Carson Wentz was deemed the bad guy, bad human, bad this, and the Indy media bought it. Well, I didn't get vaccinated, so our Libby media guys, our columnists and everybody, well, bad teammate. One guy actually said that he would, if the Colts cut him, drive Carson Wentz to the airport. I mean, all you got to do is look at that Hard Knocks last night. Frank Reich essentially considers Carson Wentz his son. And this is how out of touch the media is. If you think that at all, that because you didn't get vaccinated, guess what? Joe Flacco didn't get vaccinated. Lamar Jackson didn't get vaccinated. And it became such a big deal in Indianapolis. Carson Wentz, bad guy, bad teammate, bad leader. Yeah, I watched Hard Knocks last night. Guys were having gender reveals. Carson couldn't be there. They had him on their phone. I'll tell you something else I noticed last night. White people like to put up a high five and go, that's what I'm talking about. That's a big white person thing. I love it. There's a scene in 2.5 Men where Jake, who's the kid, tells Charlie Sheen and John Cryer how to handle Charlie Sheen's girlfriend's sons. Don't high five them. Don't say little man. And don't tell them you want to go out for ice cream. White people, that's what I'm talking about. Shut up. That was a big deal in that last night. Okay. Bubba Patron, also, this is what I really like. Now, as a coach, most times, I think of everything as a coach, like I'm teaching, right? Bubba Patron played in the league 9 years. Bubba Patron is the special teams coach. There's a scene in Hard Knocks last night. I thought this was really cool, where he basically tells the team and the guy, Zaire Franklin, great guy out of Syracuse, but he tells Zaire Franklin how he's going to block this punt. Sure enough, fast forward to the game, Zaire Franklin blocks the punt. I thought it was awesome. I thought that part was spectacular. There was a staged part, and a lot of Indy fans fell for it. There's a part where Chris Ballard's talking, I think his name is Scotty Montgomery, the running back coach, and they're sitting in the film room and they're talking about Jonathan Taylor. Totally staged. And it was an infomercial for Chris Ballard. Chris Ballard, the general manager, is really smart. Like, he is the most media-savvy guy there is. In fact, I think it was Indy fans got all over me because I am all over the Colts for not winning. They don't win enough. They don't get to the playoffs. They don't win playoff games. They don't win. I want them to win. I'm a season ticket holder. I was a season ticket holder. I don't take my press pass. I don't want to sit with those slaps up there. So I bought season tickets for my wife and I. So I'm a fan. I want them to win. But they haven't won. So I'm on their ass. So what? But anyway, Chris Ballard is perfect for a general manager's job because he's smart enough, he's connected enough, and frankly, he's politically savvy. So there's a scene, the only bad scene in it was when Montgomery, the running back coach, and Chris Ballard sat there and had a discussion about Jonathan Taylor. I don't like the staged stuff. Like, you think that they were just sitting there talking and the cameras walked in? I don't like the stage stuff. Indy fans loved it. Indy fans ate it up. Oh, my God, it was great. Did you see how genuine those two were? I'm sitting there going, that was the only not genuine part of the show. But it was great. And the last thing is, it really makes you like the Colts. And I'm going to tell you this. Every single Colt that I've ever had on my show is a great dude. Darius Leonard, great dude. If you don't like Darius Leonard's enthusiasm, that's on you. That ain't on Darius Leonard. That ain't on Darius Leonard. He is exactly what you see. Passionate about everything he does, intense about everything he does, and having at everything he does. He's having at it, man. And his deep state, baby. The deep state got us again. See, I'm telling you, when you talk Ballard and these guys, that's how strong they are. The deep state will get you. The deep state will get you every damn time. All right, are we back and better than ever? I think we are. All right, let's talk some college football. We had started to before we were rudely interrupted by the oligarchy. Watch this weekend. Ohio State's a better football team than Michigan State. But here's something that I get concerned with as I watch different games. As I think, I got to turn this off. As I watch what happens around a team, okay? Here's what I'm saying. You got to watch for distractions. Like, if I were the Colts, I'd be worried about distractions. Michigan State, here's the distraction. They're talking about a landmark, basically $9 million a year deal, 10-year deal for Mel Tucker, the Michigan State coach. Back in the day, kids didn't pay attention to this. Now they do. Michigan State is not as good as Ohio State. If Ohio State gets rocking and rolling, I don't care whether Mel Tucker's getting an extension. I don't care whether Mel Tucker's not. But when you have these things in the middle of the season, it ain't good. It's just not. SMU, Cincinnati. Now, here's the deal with this. If I were on the committee, and I feel like I have a pretty good handle on how the world should be run, right? I do. I'm trying to get this to stop here. I feel like I have a pretty good handle on the world that we live in, okay? But the truth of the matter is, if I were on the committee, I gotta see Cincinnati beat somebody and beat them bad. Now, they've won all their games, don't get me wrong. So they've won. I get it. I totally get it. But on these games, if I'm going to say they're better than a Michigan State or better than a Michigan or better than a Notre Dame, they are better than Notre Dame, they beat them. I got to see them win some games handily. And in this game with SMU, SMU doesn't guard anybody. They don't. SMU, if you remember, started 7-0. They've lost a couple since. They give up 20 points like it's their job. I'm telling you right now, Cincinnati wins 55-20, I'm putting them up. But if they go 35-28, 35-30, I'm telling you, you have to win big. Is it fair? Who cares whether it's fair? Life ain't fair. Fair. Well, the top 5 are going to dominate. They've always dominated. There's nothing different here. The Power 5 schools have dominated. You want to get in, beat the hell out of somebody, and prove yourself. It's that simple. It really is. Michigan and Maryland. Maryland has the worst football coach in the history of college football. Now, if you want to look that up, please go ahead and do. Mike Locksley, New Mexico. Look it up. And tell me there's ever been anybody worse when you combine everything. 2-30 or whatever he was. All kind of different charges. Somebody gets a DUI in his car. Locksley got his career saved by going to Alabama. And that's great. And then he ends up in Maryland. He's a DMV guy, whatever you'd call it. Okay, great. That's great too. But now you got to start winning some football games. Now your team's got to have a little bit of discipline. And this is the biggest opportunity of the Locksley era. You've got a Michigan team that's just on the outside. You've got a Maryland team that everybody's excited about when Locksley comes in. Oh, it's Locks. Oh, Locks. Blah, 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 blah. Everybody put aside how unbelievably horrendous he was at New Mexico. So at some point, you got to win a frickin' football game against a team that's any good. Tua Tagovailoa's brother is the quarterback. He brought him from Alabama. At some point, I keep saying it, and this is the perfect time. Michigan's not great. Michigan's okay. Michigan's good. But I don't think Michigan scares you offensively. You stop the run. This is an opportunity. It ain't going to happen because I believe Maryland to be totally incapable under Locksley. But this is a big game. Michigan loses, it's a road game. Anybody's ever coached in the Big Ten, football, basketball, they'll tell you, man, road game. That ain't easy. I don't care who it's against. I think Michigan wins the game, but you can take out, if you're Maryland, all the stuff. This is a game that Maryland has to win if the Locksley era is going to be anything other than a bunch of hype from a well-liked guy in the area. That's it. That's all it becomes. You got to win a game against a good team at some point. I don't care if it's year 3, 4, 5. Hell, guys are getting fired in year 2. Next game, and this shocked me a little bit. Oregon, Utah. Oregon, Utah. You think to yourself, well, Oregon, they're in the football playoffs. Utah hadn't been any good since Urban Meyer. That's not true. That's not true at all. Utah's damn good. And you know who's the favorite in this game? Utah. Now, how weird is that? Now, I don't think Oregon wins this game. In fact, I don't even need the 3 points. This isn't really the betting portion. I'm going to tell you why. Oregon's banged up. Oregon's banged up, and one thing about the Utes, again, I don't necessarily go into completion percentages and things like that. I go into the mentality of the game. It's what we're supposed to do. That's what you kind of look at as a coach while you give the analytics, while you give all the other stuff. I'll tell you this about Utah. One thing about Utah, big game, they show up. Big game, you're going to see a lot of red. Big game, there's an energy in that stadium that is just like anything you see in the Big Ten, in the SEC, in the Big 12 for a big game, better than the Big 12. I'm telling you right now, when Oregon walks into Utah, into that stadium, it is going to be like they got smacked. They got smacked right in the mouth, and they got to play through that before they ever kick the ball off. That is a huge, huge deal in this football game, and the fact that Oregon's banged up, and the fact that I think Utah's pretty tough. So I think we're going to have a lot of movement, and we'll talk about it throughout the day. I think we're going to have a lot of movement in the college football top 6. I think Michigan State or Ohio State, one of them's out. Michigan, interesting game against a team in Maryland that has talent. Everybody tells me, Mike Loxley, slate's been cleaned by Lord God King Saban. We shall see what we shall see. And then I think Oregon's going to get beat at Utah. All right, I got a monster for you today. I really do. We got a couple things. We're going to get all your bets in with our friend Arky. Arky Shea. Do you know who Arky Shea is? I don't know if you know who Arky Shea is. I got to rip Coach K. I got to rip the city of Cleveland. I got Chad Withrow coming on, host of 360. We're going to talk some Titans. We're going to talk some NFL football. It's a monster. I want to thank you all for staying with us. The deep state tried, but they can't deter us. We'll be back.
There used to be radio wars between my next guest and I. It was like, man, you know what I mean? I mean, it was Nashville against Indy. It was Chad against Dan. I mean, Chad Withrow joins us, Outkick 360, one of the great radio hosts in the country. Chad, you guys are always way too kind. I felt you were 1A, I was 1B. Didn't matter what Barnett or Barrett said. We were just that kind of good. That's how I look at it.
I mean, you really can't mess with excellence, right, Dan? And I feel like we both have really captured our own brand of excellence. And being 1 and 2 every year, and I would love to say that we were trading off in some way, but we really weren't trading off. I think we were number one time, and then the other 5 or 6 years you were number 1. So we just had that one fleeting bit of glory to be in the top spot and have replaced you there. But every other year it was you. And we always sat back and said, this is amazing because Dan is one guy. He is one guy hosting a show, and here we are 3 guys, and we can't match Dan's excellence, which all frustrated us. Yeah,
well, it shows you the power of getting suspended often.
Yeah, that's true. I really need a suspension to up my street cred, apparently. But look, we go to Outkick because we're trying to escape the specter of Dan Dakich, and then here you come to Outkick after us and continue to. We just live in your shadow at all times, Dan. It's really amazing.
No. I'm living in your shadow. Outkick 360 for those of you that are looking for, I think, the best show that you're going to find. Afternoons 3 to 7, 3 to 7 our time Eastern, right? 2 to 6 you.
2 to 5 Central, 3 to 6 your time.
Yeah. So those of you looking, I'm telling you, really good. I heard you guys. I live in Indy, obviously do a radio show in Indy, and I heard you guys. I was listening when Derrick Henry broke his foot, and you guys were complaining about the carpet here in Lucas Oil. What?
It's an issue, right? There's the multiple NFL coaches have talked about it. I'm actually watching that game with my wife, Dan, and she says, "Why does the field look that way?" When looking down at the field, and I said, "That's just the way it looks. It's hard to explain." Now, there in Indy, too, they've got the weird shadow game that goes on with the roof at times. So it's kind of an odd-looking playing surface to begin with. But there have been some issues with the turf there. Now, was it the turf or was it the wear and tear on Henry's foot with all the carries? Probably more of the wear and tear, but at least let us have our fantasy that the turf had something to do with it.
I'll let you have whatever you want as a Colts fan. Look, and a former coach, I hate to say it, but I'm just glad he's out. I mean, although it doesn't matter. Let me go into this. I've said whenever somebody discusses the NFL and the best teams, particularly in the AFC, I never see anybody jump up and say the Titans. And I understand Henry's out. They've won 2 games without him. When you look at this run, Chad, if you're going by who's playing the best, the most consistent, how does anybody not talk about the Titans? I don't get it.
Well, if you and we're both college basketball guys, Dan, at heart. I love the sport also. But you go in college basketball and you go with that blind resume before the NCAA tournament,
yes,
and you're looking at different teams. If you did a blind resume of the Titans versus every other team in the NFL, and you showed beat 5 playoff teams from last year, 6 wins in a row, and then put some of the wins that they've had, key wins, the Titans win that resume test. They've got the best resume in the NFL right now. But the Cardinals are right there also, but with Kyler Murray out, that's a little bit of a different story. So, yeah, I think from what the Titans have done, you have to consider them one of the best teams in the NFL. Now, the lack of Derrick Henry and then the lack of offense that's followed that gives me some pause to make them even the best team in the AFC, but they continue to find ways to win. It was 2 big interceptions in LA to beat the Rams that completely turned that game around. It was sort of piecemealing an offensive game together and getting some good fortune from the officiating, honestly, against the Saints that helped them win that game. They've got to figure some things out offensively. I also think the national narrative around the Titans is simply that it's a mid-market team. They're not particularly sexy without Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry was the star. Now that Derrick Henry's not there, it's not a team that national people want to spend a lot of time talking about. We are all creatures of habit, and we are all at times slaves of our own opinion. So if you come into a season with an opinion that I want to talk about these teams that move the needle nationally, I don't want to talk about the Tennessee Titans of the world. I think at times national media members skew their opinion that way, even as evidence is put in front of them that shows that they may have been wrong in the preseason, or they may be wrong about a certain team right now, because it's human nature. You want to go back to the teams that move the needle, and you want to spend more time talking about, are the Rams broken? Can they come back from this 2-game losing streak? Instead of saying, oh, guys, by the way, the Titans may be really good, and we may need to spend more time talking about the Titans. No one really wants to do that nationally.
I honestly, God, I've learned I go by who wins. I mean, particularly in the NFL and who you beat. I think a lot of people, Chad, expected the Titans to lose to the Saints. I really do. I think they did. I think they thought, Henry, 1 game, fine, 2 games, no chance. I really do.
I think you're right. I think I predicted, I was shocked when they beat the Rams without Derrick Henry. I thought that was going to be a blowout. And then they come back. I thought they would beat the Saints, but I knew it could be a struggle, and it definitely was a struggle. And you're right, Dan, about just go with the teams that win and talk about them. If you're going to lead off a show and talk about the NFL, let's talk about the teams that win. The Kansas City Chiefs weren't some national brand 4 or 5 years ago, right? They weren't a team that – they're not the Green Bay Packers. They're not the New England Patriots. They're not the Dallas Cowboys. But guess what happened? They got a great quarterback, and they have a team that started winning a ton. And now suddenly the Kansas City Chiefs are a national talking point. They are a national TV draw every time they play. And it's all because of the quarterback and because, most importantly, they win. They've been to 2 straight Super Bowls. They've won 1 of them. I don't see any reason why the Titans or any other franchise, the Colts, name the franchise. If you win enough and you have a great quarterback that also moves the needle of the NFL, if you have both those things, why not be a national team? Why not be a national story? Why not move the needle?
I totally agree with you. It's like, man, we keep talking about certain teams. Hey, let me make a comparison. You mentioned national media this summer when Julio Jones came to the Titans. It was over for everybody. Julio Jones hasn't done much. He's on the IR now. Indiana did the same thing in Indianapolis a few years ago with Andre Johnson coming over from Houston. Is this a function? Is Julio Jones' lack of a season a function of an injury? Is he shot? Is it both? I mean, what is it?
Well, the knock on Julio Jones, and I talked to a number of people in Atlanta when the Titans made the move, was, and I thought at the time of like, okay, this is just sour grapes because he doesn't want to be in Atlanta. But they said, look, the guy's not going to practice. If you're okay with him sitting out every week of practice and just showing up for games and showing up for, maybe half to 2/3 of the games, then you're going to be okay with Julio Jones, because the bottom line is he's been battling injuries the last couple of years. It's a hamstring now that's keeping him out. And there's been moments on the practice field where you could see something happen and he gets frustrated and he walks to the side of the trainer, and you know that he's probably going to be out that week. So it's been a big disappointment, Dan, in Nashville, because this was supposed to be the power pack of wide receivers the Titans have never had, with both A.J. Brown and Julio Jones. And now it's A.J. Brown left to really carry the load because Julio Jones physically just can't go at this point.
When you look at Ryan Tannehill, I said this to Koharski last week. I'm like, hey, I don't know. I kind of think he's in the top 5 at least for the MVP vote. I think he will be in the top 5. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but I do know this. Titans won last week with Julio Jones out, Derrick Henry out, A.J. Brown getting 1 catch, and a running back as old as me and Adrian Peterson running the football. I mean, I'm not saying that he's the greatest, but there got to be something to Ryan Tannehill that makes his team believe in him. Seems like a winner to me. Where am I at? Where am I wrong here with Tannehill, other than the numbers?
Well, you're going to become a hero to Titans fans with that take, Dan, that he should be top 5 MVP. I'm a little bit on the opposite side of it. Look, Tannehill, you're right about this. The team loves him. I mean, he is a leader. He's not a guy who's going to ole on a tackle attempt like Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah.
He's a guy that in Oakland a couple years ago, he laid out a guy on an interception return, and you win respect from your teammates when you're the quarterback doing something like that. He's a gritty guy. His teammates like him. Tannehill's got to be better, though. He's thrown some picks this year that are rookie level interceptions. That's very much unlike him since he's kind of rejuvenated his career with the Titans. So I think ultimately it needs to be better. If you're looking for an MVP candidate on the Titans, to me, it's Jeffrey Simmons in the middle of that defense. I mean, he's supplanted Aaron Donald, at least this year, as the most disruptive force in the middle of the defense. That was his star turn on Sunday Night Football, outplaying Aaron Donald and completely blowing up anything that the Rams wanted to do. So if I'm looking for an MVP candidate with the Titans right now, it's Jeffrey Simmons in the middle of that defense and Harold Landry with the pass rush. I call him contract year Harold Landry because we've not seen this before. Now that he's in a contract year, he's terrific.
Man, there's a lot of that going around in every professional sport, brother.
No doubt. No doubt.
All right, I have for you 5 hot takes, and I want to see where you're at with each of these hot takes, all right? And I want to expound a little bit, if you don't mind, on them. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, I don't know which way we go here, from 5 down or from 1 up. So I'm going to go from 5 down. Number 5, Chad, Kyler Murray and quarterbacks his size are the future of the NFL, his size and speed and quickness.
I'm going to say absolutely not. And I say that for this reason. I think, Dan, we're going to see more of Kyler Murray coming into the league. This is now an acceptable thing, whereas in 1990, it was ridiculous. Remember when Doug Flutie came out and he had to go to Canada to play because he was too small to play the position? You didn't even have a shot if you weren't, 6'2" or 6'3" or above. I think now that people see that you can get creative enough with great athletes, regardless of height, and be really successful in the NFL, but it's not going to become the norm because Mac Jones is the best rookie quarterback this year. Justin Herbert is a guy who's 6'6" and can also run. So for every Kyler Murray, I look at that situation and say, well, he's doing really well, but yet here's this guy from Alabama who's your prototypical old school pocket passing quarterback who's the best rookie quarterback in the NFL right now with the New England Patriots. So I think we're going to see more of it. I don't think it's going to become the norm.
See, I agree with you. I saw Bryce Young, and I thought, okay, he's going to be like Kyler Murray. But you're right. Lamar Jackson, big, strong dude that can run it. Even your guy, Tannehill, and our guy, Wentz. These are big, strong dudes. These are not little guys, and they can all move a little bit. So I agree with you. I think you're absolutely right there. No, I think
and Dan, it's, you were a basketball coach for a long time. You always an old football coach friend of mine said this: when you're picking a team, always take the big guy with talent over the little guy with talent. Right?
Yeah.
So there's always going to be there's going to be someone 6'3" or 6'4" that can move also and can pass. Kyler Murray is the exception, not the rule. I think we're going to have more exceptions with shorter guys that do it. But for every Kyler Murray, there's always going to be someone who's also tall and can move around and do things like a Ryan Tannehill, for instance.
To your point about back in the 90s, you're a college basketball fan. You remember the name Dane Fife?
Absolutely. Yes. Love Dane Fife.
Yeah. Dane was the last kid I recruited in Indiana before I left and went to Bowling Green. And Coach Knight and I lied to him. He was a quarterback and a really good one. And we're like, hey, man, you're too small to be an NFL quarterback. Now, the dude was like 6'5", 220, in high school. And we're just lying to him. But now he'd be, he would have been big enough then, but we wanted to get him to come to Indiana.
That's what made you a great recruiter. Now, was that Dugan's little brother? Dane was Dugan's little brother. Okay, I remember Dugan Fife for Michigan also. Dugan was
I don't think he played with the Fab Five. I think he did. I think Dugan played with him for a year. All right, next thing. John Gruden has a really good shot or no shot to win his case versus the NFL.
I think John Gruden has a great shot to get paid in this deal. I don't see this thing going to court. I don't see it going to discovery, but I think John Gruden is going to get a check cut courtesy of the NFL because of this. Because really, when you look at it, there's no way to argue that someone with the league or someone out there was after John Gruden. They wanted his job. This was an investigation into the Washington football team. And the only thing that anyone has been transparent about and leaked to the media is the fact that John Gruden had some rough emails years ago. Someone had it out for John Gruden. I don't know who it was. We can speculate that these emails that were leaked were about the commissioner. So maybe the commissioner had something to do with having someone leak it to the media in order to get him fired by the Raiders. So I think ultimately the last thing the league wants is for this to go into some discovery phase where everything in these emails are going to be public record. And I think that they're going to pay John Gruden a settlement and be done with it. So, yeah, I don't – that's not necessarily winning because it's not going to go to court. So I don't think he's going to win this lawsuit, but I do think he's going to get a settlement check.
Yeah, I don't think he's getting his job back either.
No, not in the NFL.
Yeah,
not in the NFL. Now, let me ask you this, though. This is something we've talked about, Dan. If you're a college program out there and you want to make a splash, I mean, UConn just hired Jim Mora just because he's a name. If you wanted to make a splash for your program, how long do you wait to hire John Gruden? Or is that even possible?
Recruiting is such a big deal. Do you think John Gruden, based on, like, I've also said, look, I've not seen one. Have you seen one of these emails, like physically seen an email? All we've heard is what they say, right?
Yep.
If your recruiting is a lifeblood, can John Gruden go into a kid's home, an African-American kid's home, and sell himself?
I think that you have to surround yourself with the right people. I think it's possible if John Gruden hired the right staff, and part of that is convincing the right staff to work with you also, which is a part of the recruiting angle that you mentioned,
right.
Dan. So
Yes.
if he can get the right staff and minorities on staff that believe in John Gruden, that believe his defense of these emails that he's laid out there, and they can go properly sell it to kids in high school, yeah, I think John Gruden would be a draw with a Super Bowl ring that he can bring in and show recruits. And I think it would work at the right place. I don't think a top program is going to do it right now, but if you are a lower Power 5 job that's open and John Gruden really wanted to coach again, I think it's worth a look.
If I were, I told Calvin Sampson this when he was thinking about resigning, and I said, you can't resign because once you resign, you don't have a voice anymore. And if John Gruden wants to ever clear himself or clean himself, whatever the right word you want, I don't think he can clear himself, but clean himself, then he's got to get back into it at some point because I don't think any network's going to hire him. I just don't know that. I think he would be a huge splash. I think people would pay attention. But I think sometimes that's good, and I think that could also be very, very bad. I don't see it happening for a year, but I think it's interesting. Stranger things have happened. Hell, well, I don't know, but it's hard to go through the list of what's worse. Boom, boom, boom with coaches. We got Dave Bliss at the all-time top, right? Dave Bliss with the murders and all that stuff. But I have a hard time.
But he coached again. I mean. Not at a high level, but Dave Bliss got a job after covering up murder on his own team.
I know.
So, I mean, it's also, look, this is sort of where we are right now, and you and I know this, but the unforgivable sin right now is to say something offensive. And that's where John Gruden is in terms of being hireable. And I think that's the problem with him. It's not a criminal issue with him, but you could come back from a criminal issue quicker than what he's going through right now. So that's going to be an uphill climb.
You're absolutely right. All right. Odell Beckham Jr. will be a major kind of Pro Bowl-ish performer for the Rams.
No, I don't see him being a major Pro Bowl type performer. I think he could be a nice compliment to what they're doing. Look, Robert Woods going down for the Rams is a big deal. And someone's going to have to step into that void because that guy does a lot. And Odell Beckham Jr. has the ability to do a lot of the things that Robert Woods does. He was involved in the run game. They'd find ways to get it to him on end arounds. He would be a running back at times. I think Odell Beckham Jr. can do some of that. You know, he's done some direct snap stuff throughout his career also. They need him to try to fill that role right now until Woods can come back. I think he can be a nice piece to what the Rams obviously hope is a Super Bowl puzzle. I don't see him being an all-pro type performer again, but I think he can be a nice compliment to Cooper Kupp and what the Rams want to do offensively with Matthew Stafford and can help get them to a Super Bowl.
You know, to your point, I was listening to Rex Ryan, and whether you like Rex Ryan or not, he's the one guy I think on that panel that's insightful. And he said something interesting about Robert Woods. He said Robert Woods will not only block cornerbacks and safeties, but he'll take on a defensive tackle. He's the kind of guy that people rally around in the locker room because they know about his toughness. So that's to your point. That dude is very valuable. I don't see Beckham Jr. doing that kind of stuff.
No, that's not his game at all. And you're right. I mean, look, it's also when I'm watching him on the sideline when they're getting their brains beat in by San Francisco on Monday night, and he's not laughing it up, but he's kind of just sitting there nonchalantly talking to a teammate. And I'm thinking, if you're a guy who joins a team like that is going for broke, they are all in. The Von Miller move, bringing him in, they want to win a Super Bowl right now. Matthew Stafford in the offseason, you better really work on getting along with that locker room, right? There better be a concerted effort to come in and show that you are about winning also. That's your only concern. Can he do that? I think that remains to be seen. And I'm not saying I thought he was dogging it or anything in that first game. I'm just seeing him interact with the players, and it made me think his interaction with his teammates and his level of commitment is going to be a big part of this story as to how they're going to get along with him and he's going to get along with the Rams.
And I saw exactly what you saw. Exactly. I mean, exactly. And, yeah. All right, Tom Brady is starting to show his age, Chad.
I thought Tom Brady was starting to show his age. I guess it was 2 years ago now in his final year in New England. That entire season, Dan, he would get rid of the football so quickly. You see this a lot with older quarterbacks where they feel the phantom pressure at times. Tom Brady that year was skipping rocks a lot, where there wouldn't be a lot of pressure on him, but he would feel a shadow around him and would throw the ball away. He'd throw it at the feet of a running back or just get rid of it quickly. And I started thinking, man, finally, even Father Time caught up with the great Tom Brady. And then you realize, that was just New England's offense and not having anyone around him because he gets to Tampa and he's great again and he wins the Super Bowl. I was in New England when the Titans beat the Patriots in Brady's final game as a Patriot in the playoffs that year. And I'm thinking, Tom Brady seems old at this point. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is the downside. You knew that he had something left if he went somewhere else, but you knew that night it was the end of him in New England. But I'm hesitant to say that he's showing his age because I've been burned way too many times by Tom Brady when he has a little dip in play to say that he's getting old. So I'm going to continue to go with my theory that Tom Brady's going to play till he's 50 and just leave it at that. He's going to look old at 49. That's going to be the first time he looks old.
I'm totally with you, and I don't understand why I don't have a $500 a month prescription or subscription, whatever the hell it is, to TB12, because I look like this.
Well,
he'll look. Every adult male should. That's over 30.
I mean, I don't have that level of discipline. I enjoy food too much. I enjoy drinking too much at times. There's no way that I could live my life actually pretending like I enjoy avocado ice cream. That's never going to be a thing for me. Never. I refuse.
I'm not a juicer. I can't be juicing. I can't be squeezing. No squeezing.
I'll die 10 years earlier if that's what it takes for me to enjoy my life. I'm not going to live to 100 like Tom Brady, but I'm going to enjoy every day of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, last one. Cam Newton will have a huge impact on Carolina.
We discussed this yesterday on Outkick 360. I am the minority opinion on our show with this. I think he is absolutely back. When he was screaming that he's back with those first two plays for touchdowns, I think Cam Newton, now with McCaffrey back, I think that this is huge for the Panthers. I really do think that he's going to make a big impact, even if it's just in this sort of, platoon system that we've seen from them. I think that he's going to have a big impact when he gets in games. I think they're going to have a package ready for him that's going to work. I think that's the one place that he could go and have an impact on a locker room, an impact on the city, an impact on the fan base, is going back to Charlotte with the Panthers. So, yes, I think he's going to have a big impact on this Panthers team. I think at least for the time being, he is, in fact, back, just like he declared in that game on Sunday.
See, I do too. I've always been a Cam Newton fan. I'm not going to lie to you and say that I've followed him, all the time. But Chad, the thing I loved about him, when he was, I don't even know, what was he, 22, 23? I don't know. And every national media person was hounding him because his dad wanted money for him to go to college after getting kicked out of Florida and all that. He handled that like unbelievable, led his team to an undefeated season, won a national championship. And I always think about, my own experience. Like if I was 18 to 20, I couldn't have handled it that well. No way. And I've always respected that about him. Whatever you think about him, you do, but I've always respected that. So I always root for him. You know what I'm saying? He's always been a guy that I'm like, man, people underestimate the crush that was on him when he was in college and how well he handled that. It's not normal. Let's put it that way.
Not normal at all. And he also goes back to what we discussed earlier. If you have the chance to take the big talented guy, you always take the big talented guy over the small talented guy. That's what jumped out to me when he was at Auburn and winning that 2010 national title and throughout his career. And I've seen this guy. They practiced with the Titans one year, and getting up close to that guy, he is a giant. I mean, you would think that he is a defensive tackle when you see him up close. So that always struck me about Cam Newton was how massive of a man he was playing that position and moving the way that he does.
You're the best, man. What we got going today? 3 to 5 cents or Eastern. What do we got?
We've got some good stuff. Yeah, we got some good stuff coming today. Trey Wallace is going to talk SEC with us with Outkick. Jeff Fisher, former Titans coach, former NFL head coach, is going to join us in studio 5 Eastern time, 4 Central for the entire hour. So we're going to talk a lot of ball, a lot of coaching with him. That's going to be a lot of fun. We're looking forward to it.
Great stuff, man. Appreciate you coming on. Thanks, Chad.
Anytime, Dan. Thanks for having me.
You got it. Hey, check them out.
Outkick 360 at Outkick 360. Go on YouTube, Outkick 360. It's great. I listen to it. Here's what I do. I do my radio show, then I mow grass. I don't mow grass. I blow leaves. I turn their show on, and away we go. I do. All right, we come back. I didn't get to this yesterday. Coach K's pissing me off. Where do kids get discipline at? I'm going to get into Coach K and his soft, frickin' entitled, frickin' let kids do what they want to do thing at Duke when we come back. Hey, that was a lot of fun with Chad. I got to tell you, their show is terrific. It really is. And if you get a chance, give it a listen. You guys that are in Indianapolis, around here, it's from 3 to 5. It's really good. All right, it's time for some sacking up. Now, look, I am in the Bob Knight family. Coach K is in the Bob Knight family. All right? Coach K, has his own deal, but it's all under the umbrella of Indiana University. It's all under the umbrella of Bob Knight. Here's the problem that I have. Let's go to a broader picture, all right? Let me ask you a question. I believe kids need discipline. I believe adults need discipline. I believe everybody wants to be led in some way, shape, or form. So let me ask you this question. Where do kids get discipline? Now, everybody's going to say at home, well, we know the importance of fathers. We know that fathers aren't doing nearly what they should do across the board by being at home, by caring for kids. President Obama said it years ago, about the importance of fathers, and everybody paid attention to it for a minute, and now it seems to have gone by the wayside, and somehow talking about the importance of fathers, you become some type of ist, which is idiotic. All right, the next place, school. No discipline in school. I got a video of a art teacher on the ground getting pummeled by students here at a grade school 3 blocks away. Indianapolis public schools are a complete train wreck. Lawrence, where I live in the city of Indianapolis, those public schools are a train wreck. You can't discipline kids in school. Sports teams. Hell, sports teams now. Coach disciplines, coach cusses. We all act like it's so terrible. My God, you can't now, the best of our sports teams don't even discipline people. And it's disgusting to me. Mike Krzyzewski is the greatest coach, arguably, in the history of college basketball. You could put a Mount Rushmore of great coaches in any sport, and Mike Krzyzewski is going to be there. I always wonder, though, has Mike Krzyzewski sold out? I think he has. I think he's sold out to agents. I think he's sold out to money managers. I don't know this, but I know there was an article written a long time ago that somehow disappeared in Louisiana about all the players from Alaska, California, Louisiana, that somehow their families moved to Duke. People have told me Marvin Bagley, when he was there, lived in a frickin' gated community. Cars guys are driving. I don't know, but that's what I've been told. But I do know this. When you get to a certain age in coaching, you got a choice to make. You got to evolve. Everybody talks about evolving. Well, you can evolve while still maintaining certain standards. And the other day, Krzyzewski's grandson and their star player, Paolo Banchero, both got arrested. The grandson got arrested, like he was taken in for a DUI, DWI, whatever the hell you want to call it. He's a walk-on. It's going to be a bad Thanksgiving for Krzyzewski's grandson. It's going to be a terrible Thanksgiving, I think, unless Krzyzewski's, an enabler, which I kind of think that he is. The star of the team, Paolo Banchero, got off with literally nothing. Maybe he had a run behind the scenes. Maybe he had to do, I don't know. Who knows? But here's the deal. Yes, Mike Krzyzewski said these are 2 separate incidents. Yes, one, the DUI, is more, I don't know the right word, egregious than the aiding and abetting that Banchero got, but both are embarrassing. You've embarrassed Duke's program. The DUI that Krzyzewski's grandson got was also underage drinking. Why was that kid driving the car, Banchero's car? Because Banchero, they both felt, was too impaired. Well, at the very least, that's underage drinking as well. At the very least, that's an embarrassment to Duke's basketball program. Now, there was a rule, and it's the Bob Knight rule that Krzyzewski had and everybody had. And here's what the Bob Knight family, which includes Krzyzewski and all his family and everything else. We don't have any rules, just don't embarrass the program. Then you're going to have to deal with me, and you don't want to have to deal with me. That's the rules I had at Bowling Green. Well, when the scroll comes across, Mike, and this is why I keep calling Mike Krzyzewski's grandson, because it didn't say the kid's name. It just said Mike Krzyzewski's grandson and Paolo Banchero arrested. When that comes across ESPN and it's accurate, or CBS Sports and it's accurate, or makes national news and it's accurate, that's embarrassing to the program. You know what I saw the next day, or actually that night? They got arrested on Sunday. I think I saw the headline on Tuesday. They were getting ready to play Gardner-Webb. I saw Banchero, a tweet from Duke's basketball program, got his $500 pair of headsets on, shooting threes, getting ready for the game. Started and played, the kid did. What kind of message does that send? Sends a horse bleat message. And I'm not even saying we all got to send messages. I'm just saying, where do kids get discipline? Where the hell does anybody look as a young person and say, man, Now, there are some great fathers out there, some great mothers, some great single mothers, some great single fathers. I get all that. But I'm looking at a broader picture. Where do kids get discipline? Hell, you can't talk about God. You can't talk about the Pledge of Allegiance. You can't discipline anybody in high schools. I just had a friend of mine quit her high school job after 23 years because the place is so ridiculous and dangerous. Talk to high school teachers once in a while. There's no discipline in any schools. Why in the hell are we letting 13, in some cases 8-year-olds, disrespect adults? Why the hell are we doing it? Superintendent of schools here in Lawrence, Indiana makes $300,000. And he's so full of crap, I can't even believe he makes $1. He's a talker. He's a politician. The schools are in a shambles. So where do kids get? Do they get them in major programs like Duke? I don't think so. I got to tell you something. I am so happy as I look back of 3 things in my life. 1, I played for Bob Knight, and I learned about preparation. I don't like Bob Knight. I wouldn't, what does it say? Pee on his grave, whatever the hell those sayings are. I don't do anything. I don't respect them. But I'm glad I played for somebody that didn't just let us all run free. 2, I'm glad I've been through some hard things in my life. And playing for Bob Knight wasn't a hard thing, but working for Bob Knight was a pain in the ass. I'm glad I've been through a divorce. Wish it didn't happen for my kids and all that kind of stuff. I'm glad I got fired. Because I look at it, and there's nothing any of you can say to me. There's nothing you can do to me. There's nothing that's ever going to get me down. And the third thing I'm glad about is that I was really tough on my kids. I didn't let my kids slide, even through a divorce, even though my kids lived with me when we got divorced. I didn't let nothing slide, probably overly harsh. Hell, I made my son one time when he was, 6th grade, and was a pain in the ass in school. I made him wear a suit and tie and sit on the end of the bench, didn't let him play. So I told him, if you want to play in college, that's what happens when you don't do what you're supposed to do in school. Mike Krzyzewski had a damn chance. So what's next for Banchero and Duke basketball? You know what's next? Business as usual. Frickin' business as usual. Why? Because we have nobody that is going to question Mike Krzyzewski and his discipline. They might question Mike Krzyzewski's coaching, but remember, this is the Mike Krzyzewski Love Me Tour. Oh, love me. You gotta love me. I stayed 1 year. I announced it before the year so you all could love me. Love me. That's all this is. So no one's going to question it. I had a conversation with my friend Seth Greenberg yesterday, and he is going to question it. He's disappointed. We got into coaching. I got into coaching because I couldn't play. I wanted to be a guy named Bob Love. Before Michael Jordan, Bob Love was the star of the Bulls, number 10, Butterbean, Southern University. Fought through having a stutter as a kid. He was my all-time hero, wore number 10 every sport because of Bob Love. When I realized I wasn't going to be Bob Love, I wanted to help people. I wanted to coach. I wanted to help young people. And the fourth thing I will say that I'm happy about is I disciplined the living hell out of my basketball team to the point where a lot of kids quit. Those kids that quit, about 90% sent me a letter saying they should have never quit. But that's all right. What's Krzyzewski doing now? Krzyzewski's letting a DUI or a passenger in a DUI that couldn't drive because as an underage kid, they thought was impaired, just show up the next game and play. They're going to hide behind it. Well, there's things behind the scenes. No, there's not. No, there's not. You give in to greatness. And Banchero is a great player. I mean, I don't know if he's going to be a great NBA player. I have no idea. That's for you all to decide. But what in the hell are we doing? It's sad, really. Disappointing, no, because it's what I expect. I don't expect. It's like Butler basketball. Let me tell you what Butler did. So Butler basketball has a player named Aaron Thompson. Aaron Thompson's a really nice player. Not a great player, but he's their best player. Aaron Thompson does whatever you do to get a 3-game suspension. So what does Butler do? They scheduled 3 games, 2 back-to-back, a Friday and a Saturday, so they could get the 3 games in before they played Michigan State last night. Karma's a mother. Michigan State beat the hell out of them, and Aaron Thompson was no factor. But what did Aaron Thompson learn? Yeah, everybody calls college sports a business. Well, he learned that an 18 to 23-year-old, a major institution of higher learning, supposedly, will acquiesce to talent. It's not a great lesson. It's not a great lesson. And I'm not just talking about sports. I'm talking about in those tall buildings downtown, whatever city you live in. It's ridiculous is what it is. Not surprising, though. I expect that out of Kay. I expect that out of all of our big-time coaches. There is no group of people more disappointing than the Hall of Fame college basketball coach, with the exception of Izzo. Izzo will stand up. Izzo will fight. Izzo will keep people accountable. Yeah, there's been things in their program. He was totally and unfairly blown into a thing by ESPN. It was ridiculous what ESPN did to him. And you all believe, when they put him and D'Antoni and Nasser on the same picture, that was egregious. And I told ESPN, I was working for him, I said, that is the worst possible thing I've ever seen in media. Because that's not who Tom Izzo is. These other guys, they'll acquiesce, they'll kiss ass. It's disgusting. All right, let's get on the court and let's talk some college basketball. Tonight, there's a couple of games that are interesting to me. Ohio State, a program near and dear to my heart. My son played at Ohio State, had a great experience. I was the dumbass that didn't hire Chris Holtmann. Chris was looking for an assistant job. I was at Bowling Green. We interviewed. Frankly, I couldn't hire him because I knew I was getting fired. Hell, I had my 3 best players out. We had come off, because they were out the year before, bunch of losses. I knew if I didn't win, I was going to get fired. I knew I wasn't going to win, got fired. So I hired a friend of mine who had been a really good coach just so he could get another job and get a little more money. Xavier. The coach at Xavier, Travis Steele, I hired at Indiana. When I became the head coach, the interim head coach, I moved Travis up. I love Travis Steele, and I love Chris Holtmann. And it's going to be a hell of a game. Ohio State did not play well in their opener against Akron. They've been pretty good since. It's an Ohio State team with a couple of bigs you're really going to like. Zeb Key, really good. Really good. Just down on the block. And E.J. Liddell has a chance, my humble opinion, to be an all Big Ten / Player of the Year type player. Xavier's good, not great. Don't be surprised if Ohio State doesn't go in there and beat Xavier. Second biggest game of the night is a game near and dear to my heart. I'll be sitting and watching this one. Ready? Elon the Phoenix. University of Elon, or Elon University, where my son coaches, in the Charleston Classic. That's right, the Charleston Classic. They're going to take on West Virginia, a program that in 2002 I was the head coach of for about 8 days. 8 days. Now, Dan, how the hell are you a coach for only 8 days? I'll tell you how I was a coach for only 8 days. I was a coach for only 8 days because the president, they were cheating their brains out under Gail Catlett. They were fixing games. They were fixing transcripts. They were doing all this crap. Players told me, and the president of the university told my wife and I he would destroy us. I told that president right here, I'm out of here. different story. Still beloved in West Virginia. Elon with my son comes in. I'll never say my son's team won't win, but it'll be a tough task. This weekend is a great tournament in Connecticut. Great tournament. I think Seth Greenberg and the fellas are going to be there. Number 5, Villanova, they'll drop maybe, against number 17, Tennessee. Villanova with Jay Wright and Colin Gillespie already went out and played at UCLA. I love Jay Wright. I don't like Philly. I already said it. But I'm a big Jay Wright fan. And I think Colin Gillespie is one of those kids that just makes teams better. And at the end of the day, this will be a close game. Tennessee under Rick Barnes has shown itself to be physical, tough, get in you. In fact, a few years ago, when Purdue had a man masquerade or a mountain masquerading as a man named Isaac Haas, Tennessee beat the living hell out of him physically. Like, boom. I mean, that's kind of how Rick Barnes plays it. Villanova plays it a little more finesse, athletic wings, Gillespie with the basketball. It's going to be a hell of a game. Villanova's going to win the game, but it's going to be a hell of a game. And then next game in this same tournament is North Carolina under Hubert Davis, who has been okay, undefeated, 4-0, against a Purdue team, might be the best in the country. Oh, I'm serious here. You know, these are games Purdue has always lost. These national games against the Dukes, the North Carolinas, Purdue's always lost these. I don't think so this year. Like, if you're a gambling person and you want to go out and you want to see a futures bet to win a national championship or get to a Final Four, I got to tell you, this Purdue team. I'm watching them the other day. Now, it's Wright State. Wright State has a team, 4 or 5 starters back. I don't know what the hell it is, right? 4 or 5 starters back. Supposed to be 1 or 2 in the Horizon League. And I mean to tell you, Purdue beat them standing on their head. And here's the thing I liked about it. Here's something to look for in your team. You see this in Alabama football. You see this in Ohio State football. You don't see this very often in a whole lot of teams, but you see it in those 2 teams. You see it in Duke basketball. Not Kentucky this year, but you've seen it over the years in the great teams. They walk into an arena and they just know they're going to kick your ass. I mean, they don't think they're going to kick your ass. They know they're going to kick your ass. And that's what Purdue looks like to me. They've got 2 of everything, 2 big guys. Travion Williams, the best passing big man in the country. Came to Purdue at like 7,000 pounds. He's a specimen now, great feel. This kid, Zach Edey, is, again, Purdue always has a 7'5" guy. He was a pitcher as a kid at 7 feet or whatever. Now, and then the wings, Purdue has 2 of those. Isaiah Thompson's a point guard. They got 2 of those. Eric Hunter is a point guard as well. Isaiah Thompson, listen to this. He's scrawny. He's little. His dad, PJ, terrific player. Or his brother, PJ, terrific player at Purdue. His dad, LaSalle, really good player at Ball State. PJ Thompson, or Isaiah Thompson right now is 65 minutes, 0 turnovers as a point guard. Now, look, I'm not saying they play Duke, Carolina, Kansas, Connecticut. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that's pretty damn good. I think that's going to be a hell of a game. This is the first kind of big weekend in college basketball, and then you move into Feast Week, and it's going to be exceptional. But I do think there's some pretty good games tonight. I got into the college football games earlier. I think there's some really important college football games. But I'm looking forward to some college hoops. And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, do not sleep on the Phoenix of Elon. Have you ever been to Elon? If you're nodding your head, then you're going to agree with this. It's one of, if not the most beautiful campuses in the country. Like, it is, and that alone, it should beat the couch-burning Mountaineers of Morgantown. It's the game of the night. I don't care what you say. I'm not even looking at the spread because I'm acting like a coach here. As a coach, you never look at the spread. Never, ever look at the spread. I never looked. As a player, never looked. As a broadcaster, I look every day. But I'm not looking on this one. This is going to be, I'm locked in. It is a not a revenge game. It's a grudge match. It's a Dakich grudge match. A Dakich on the sideline against West Virginia, a school where the president hit the desk and told my wife and I, my then wife and I, we will destroy you if you go any farther. I gave up $3.5 million that day to go back to a contract at Bowling Green that, I don't know, was maybe worth $100. What are you going to do? Grudge match. Elon University taking on taking on West Virginia. One last thing before we go. I got Archie Shea coming up. Now, if you don't know who Archie Shea is, he's the host of Outkick Bets, the show. You don't want to miss Archie Shea. You don't want to miss his bets. I've also got Fade Dakich coming up here. There's a lot going on this show. I got a ton coming up here for you. I need some talk on a couple of different places. I need somebody to either rip me or tell me we're good. We're on YouTube, and I ain't mad if you rip me. I ain't mad if you don't. But I'm also going to tell you, don't at me about Cam Newton. Do not at me. Some of you are adding me. Do not at me about Cam Newton. Cam Newton is one of my favorite players. Cam Newton's a bad boy. Cam Newton's a tough dude. Do not at me about Cam Newton. I'll fight you. Think about when you were 18 to 23 years old and a crush of media every day ripping your dad, ripping you, saying your dad sold you, all this crap. Nuh-uh. And all he did was go out and kick everybody's ass. That's all he did. I respect it. All right, when we come back, Archie Shea, host, Outkick the Bets. He's got some bets here I think you're going to like. He's got some bets here, you people in Indianapolis, I don't think you're going to like. We'll come back with Archie Shea, Outkick the Bets, and I'm 6-4 for you folks. 6-4 on my bets. That means we're about even, maybe making a little bit of money. Got screwed last night. I got some Fade Dakich coming up as well. Stay here. It's the gambling section of the show. it's rare when you get to discuss gambling with legends. Archie Shea, who, by the way, our producer Donnie Archie just said, after you're done here, you can get up and do your business. So hopefully you'll wait to do your business until we're off here. All right? Do your business elsewhere. You know what I'm saying?
Well, number 1 or number 2?
Well, you are. I'm not getting into that. Hey, Archie, you're hosting Outkick the Bets. How's that going? What's going on with that show? Walk me through. When is it? When can people see it?
People can check it out at 11:30 a.m. Central Time on the Outkick Bets Twitter feed, especially. Also the YouTube page. Go ahead and give that a subscribe as well. And Kayla Canarum and I are having a lot of fun on that show. We go about half an hour every day, and we break down some of our favorite bets of that day. We probably do about 5 to 8 or so every single day. We get you preview for the weekend on some of the look-ahead games, and really we have a lot of fun with that thing. Like, the sports betting is so much numbers and so much analytics that sometimes we like to sprinkle in a little laugh here or there, and that's what we try to do too. So it's really an all-around really tight, fun show to do to get you ready for your sports betting day.
Yeah, baby. Hey, when I Googled you, the first thing that came up is Archie Shea has won numerous awards. What's your favorite award? What's the one award that sticks with you?
The one award that sticks with me is probably the Alabama Broadcasters Association Sportscaster of the Year.
Whoa!
That was really cool for the large market. I'm very much like you, Dan. I got a lot of roots in terrestrial radio, man, and I spent over a decade working on that side of the ball, and it's a lot of fun. I did mostly morning radio, and that stuff's a lot of fun to do, and we had a ton of good times doing it, and that's really difficult to do, like every single day, to be up for a 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Central show. But I'll tell you, that thing means the most to me, because that combined that plus the fact that I would do play-by-play for some local teams up here in North Alabama, and it's sort of like it sticks with me. It's on my wall to this day, because I don't put many awards out there, for people to come check out in my office, but that's one of them because I'm really proud of that one.
Yeah, you should be. I'm still waiting for my first award. I swear it's coming. I know it's coming. I know an award is just around the corner, other than, being a jackass. Hey, Archie, let's go into betting. Now, are you in the show? College basketball is heating up. You going to get into that? Is this mostly NFL? Is this mostly college? What do you got?
Well, we do a lot of everything, actually. College basketball, of course, is just heating up. I actually was just remembering last night watching Indiana hold on to beat St. John's last night in what was almost a blown 14-point lead in that game. But, yeah, we did a lot of it. I watched, for some reason, I found myself watching a little bit of Vanderbilt take on VCU last night in a real slugfest, and I mean slugfest if you don't like points at all or good shooting at all. That's exactly what you got in that game. Yeah, so I'm all over the place when it comes to sports betting. I look at every single day as a chance to make some money, and if I see some lines that really attract me, I'll get on it. I'll tell you, though, you probably paid attention to this, too. This has been a real good underdog covering the spread type of year early on for college basketball.
It has, and I attribute that to a lot of older guys on teams. Like, there's older guys, and so they go into places, and they're not afraid. Last night, you mentioned the Indiana game. You got to understand, I'm here in Indiana. It's probably like what Alabama football is. When Indiana wins a game, IU fans swear a national championship is coming. So you would have thought that win last night against St. John's was a win in the NCAA tournament against Duke, the way people here have reacted. I guess we're just starving Alabama. Obviously not. All right, let's get into some things here. Before I get into, you sent me a number, but I want to get into something. Do you think Alabama or Georgia or Ohio State or Oregon, the 4 teams currently in the college football playoff, do you think there's any value in betting any one of those to win? Who has the most value? Who has the best value when you're looking at a national championship as a futures bet?
Purely value right now is probably, I would think, Ohio State of those 4 right now. I don't think Oregon, and again, we're talking about winning, not just trying to get the value. We want to get the win plus the value points on it.
Right.
Georgia's been such a stranglehold on teams this season that they're really getting up there higher and higher in the odds. And Alabama, there's almost no value unless you go inside the games individually to get Alabama on the odds. Ohio State may be able to give you a little bit. I mean, Oregon's the big value team there because no one's really sort of expecting Oregon to be able to get through two of those teams. But Oregon's not winning the national championship. So Ohio State, oddly enough, might be your most significant value just of those four teams.
I don't even think Oregon gets in the playoff. I think Oregon loses this weekend at Utah, but, who the hell knows. All right, let's get to some of the games that you like. Let's go through the Colts at the Bills. The Bills are minus 7.5. The total is 50.5. What say you?
I'm surprised at this number being so high as far as the total is concerned. 50.5, considering we have one of the elite defenses in the NFL when it comes to the Buffalo Bills. They're 1, 2, or 3 in every single category. And if you look at the best thing that Indianapolis does, they run the ball really, really well. And Jonathan Taylor has just been phenomenal for this team early on in the season. I guess we're midway through now. And that dude's just killing it. I mean, he's one carry away from leading the NFL in rushing yards coming up because he's tied with Derrick Henry right now, and we know Derrick Henry's not playing for a while. So that's the biggest weapon that the Colts have, and I think the Bills are set up dynamite to sort of stop that run, or at least to limit them, and also to be able to limit Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz turns over the ball in more inopportune times than we sort of see any major starting quarterback do at this point. The Colts are still a good team. The Bills are a great team, and they had a nice big bounce back win. They needed one against the Jets, and thank God there was a get-well game with the Jets coming up the week after losing to Jacksonville. The Bills do have a couple of holes, but not enough to where you would say that they would be worried too much about Indianapolis. But I'll say this, Dan, if you look at what's coming up for Indianapolis, there's no look ahead for Indianapolis. It's a murderer's row. They have got
Tampa Bay after this.
They have Tampa Bay. They have the Texans, which, of course, but it's an in-division opponent. Then they have the Pats and the Cardinals. It is a tough stretch over the next 5 games for them, including this weekend. I just think the total is way too high here. Once you sort of see these totals, it's in the 50s for Buffalo. They do most of the scoring themselves, a lot of the scoring. If it's a total of 51, they'll get 43 on their own. And I just don't see that being the case this weekend in Buffalo. So I think 50.5 is a real good number to go under in this weekend.
It's interesting. The Colts defense has not been good. It starts out good, and then it hasn't been good. I can't argue. Who do you think wins the game? Buffalo going away? Buffalo by double digits?
I wouldn't be surprised by Buffalo by double digits, but I feel like this is a chance where it's an 8 or 9 point victory that they can cover. But man, I'm really worried about the back door in this scenario where you're down to a couple of touchdowns and a couple of scores, and then one more at the end gets the Colts over that pump. And I don't like that by any stretch of the imagination. I do think the Bills are the better team. The Bills are going to win because both these teams are going to be super focused for this game because the Bills haven't played the Patriots yet, and they got a couple of those games coming up over the next month. So no one's looking ahead in this game. Everyone's super focused for this one. It's time to start thinking about playoff positioning, and we start looking at who the better teams are. And I think Buffalo just matches up really, really well, especially this week against Indianapolis.
One of the things, Indianapolis, and you mentioned, they just came off a 5-game stretch where it was about the easiest they're going to have. Started hard, got easy, gets back to hard. No, you made a great point about their schedule coming up. Tom Brady next week after at Buffalo. All right, Packers minus 2.5 at the Vikings. The total is 49.5. What you like?
So this is the most difficult division opponent that Aaron Rodgers has. He just destroys the Lions and the Bears. I think he's 39-10 against those teams. But he's just only 15-9 against the Vikings, which is sort of interesting to pay attention to. This is the best division opponent also that he has the highest completion percentage against, but it's not necessarily there in the other numbers. He struggles sometimes with the Vikings. And if you look at what this Green Bay team is this year, they are this good primarily because of their defense. They are an elite level defense this season. Their secondary has played phenomenal football. Their front seven has been ridiculous at times this season. In fact, how hard is it to get a shutout in the National Football League? Well, they did it last week. That's how good this defense is. And sure, it's the Seahawks, and you're talking about Russell Wilson coming back from an injury. You still get points scored by most teams every single week. So I find that spectacular to pay attention to. And also the fact that Aaron Rodgers did not participate in practice yesterday. We're not worried about his status for this week. We're worried about more guys' status like Aaron Jones, who's not going to play this week, it looks like, because of a sprained MCL. Rashawn Gary may not play because of an elbow injury. He's having a career high and career great season as far as sacks. I think he's got 5.5 this season. I worry a little bit about those guys not being able to play, not Aaron Rodgers. And I personally, I'd be an idiot to put my money against Aaron Rodgers in any situation. So going on the road, the Vikings are sort of a middle-of-the-road team when it comes to just about every statistical category. And when you sort of watch them on the field, they get big leads against Baltimore and they blow them. And then they go to Los Angeles and they win a tough game in L.A. and they look good the whole time doing it the next week. Kirk Cousins is a 500 quarterback against the spread too. I think Aaron Rodgers, after having a chance to get the rust off last week, looks better this week, and I like Green Bay to cover the 2.5.
Hey, Archie, let me ask you a side question because you made a point that my brother and I always talk about when we're betting. Like, who do you not want to see have the football down a score late in an NFL game? Like, for me, the number one guy I don't want to bet against is Aaron Rodgers. Like, it's like slow death when you bet against that guy with a spread. It's terrible. It's horrible when he has the ball late.
Yeah, it's the worst. And I've seen it as a Cowboys fan. I've seen it happen in really big opportunities and thinking you're going to have a chance to win and then leaving 80 seconds on the clock, and that's way too much time apparently for Aaron Rodgers. It's difficult to watch that kid go against, I guess, an old man now, go against your team in those late situations. Tom Brady's one of those guys, too, that if he gets the ball with one possession down with a minute or so to go, like, I would have all the faith in the world, too. But those are my 1-2. I think Aaron Rodgers still, I'd be with you as my elite guy as far as if I'm going to lose my money, dude, he's going to take it from me.
Yeah, it's like the 4 o'clock game. It's dark here in Indiana in the fourth quarter, and Rodgers has the ball, and, you're winning your bet, but you're like, this is going to be god freaking awful. You just,
And the worst part about it is that it happens, you still have the 2-minute warning most times, so you're going to get that time out. You got to wait for commercials for, that agony of 2 more minutes of commercials for him to come back and steal your team's soul. Like, it's just the worst, and he knows exactly how to get his team out of bounds, and it just milk that clock. It takes longer and longer and longer. He's just the best at it. I really, really, really hate him for it. I really do.
Dude, he's like Dean Martin back in the day. He's got a glass of scotch. He's throwing footballs. Hey, what's going on? And then he he steals your girlfriend. That's what he does. All right, I think this is the game of the weekend. I don't know. Cowboys at the Chiefs. The total is 56. The line is the Chiefs at home given 2.5. What say you?
So I'm going to be super disappointed if this game is a low-scoring 24-14 type game. I'm going to be so mad because these two offenses have been phenomenal at times this season and throughout. We know the recent history for Kansas City. And last week was a real interesting test to sort of get back to Kansas City and to think maybe Kansas City figured out the woes that they had. Maybe they just needed a road game against a division rival in a stadium in a city that doesn't make sense for the franchise and for the Raiders. So I pay attention to I want the over 56 and a half that game because I think the Cowboys also have been super elite offensively as well this season. But I think we're getting a little bit of recency bias based on this game because we're seeing what happened last week with Dallas destroying Atlanta, but also seeing that Kansas City is, quote-unquote, back because they had a really good late third, fourth quarter against the Raiders. Remember, that game was a 3-point game going midway through the third quarter. It was not the blowout that it turned into. So I feel like you're getting a little bit of recency bias and home field for Kansas City. And I don't think that's going to be the team that sort of we get to see week in and week out. I still think there are holes on this offensive line. I think that defense is just a sieve at times. I think Dallas can take advantage of it on all three levels offensively. I'm tempted to take the Cowboys plus 2.5. But my commandment is I cannot bet for my team. I just can't. So I don't want to jinx them. I'm going to root for them to win outright. I'm going to go over the 56.5 because I think both of these teams are sort of right now offensively, and I think there's a chance we see a whole bunch of points. You remember that Monday Night Football game a couple of seasons ago? I think it was this Chiefs against the Rams. I think it was that had such a high spread and ended up scoring like 80 points anyway. Like that's what I want out of this game. And that's what I kind of expect out of this game.
Hey, I was watching ESPN a few weeks ago, and the clowns on the morning show said that Kansas City Chiefs broke. Their offense is broke, they said. It's broke.
Dan, you know this. Like, how do you react every single week like that and, like, have people still trust your credibility? Like,
right.
You can't do it. You can't sit there and tell me that the team is broken and then fixed in 1 week. Either they had a slump or they're broken. It can't be both.
Right. Oh, man. They're broke. Okay. My producer, the great Jimmy Cook, is a Kansas City Chiefs fan. And, man, I was watching him on Twitter, and he's just having at everybody. Broke my ass, you know. All right, let's go to some college. Michigan State at Ohio State. Man, golly, this is a 19.5-point spread. The total 68.5. Does that seem like a lot? Am I wrong here? Am I giving State too much credit? I don't know.
Well, I think what we're paying attention to the fact is that this offense for Ohio State is the number one offense in the country. Like, they are the best. And as much as we've seen Ole Miss show up at times there at the top of the country, as well as we've seen Western Kentucky up there, and we've seen some really good offenses that are sort of just slinging. This Ohio State offense is good, really, really good. And what's sort of not talked about is how bad this Michigan State defense is. Like, there are like two teams worse than them in total yards allowed per game. But the weird thing is that they only allow like 24.5 points per game, and I tried to figure out why. How do you give up 500 yards a game almost and only give up 24.5, 25 points a game? And it turns out because over the last 5 games, the average offense they played is like 82nd in the country. So you got a little Big Ten team in there. Even though the Big Ten teams can put the yards on you, they can't quite put the points on you against Michigan State, and they are very bend but don't break a defense, it looks like, at least for so much. We know Michigan State could do it, though, Dan. We've seen them do it. We saw Kenneth Walker III and company look really, really good in the second half, especially against Michigan, and get that victory. We saw Peyton Thorne, who, by the way, Peyton Thorne's numbers on the road versus at home are like identical. Like, it's surprising how good he's been at both stretches of the season, or both sides of the season, home and on the road. So I'm very interested in this game being such a high spread because if you've watched Ohio State the last few weeks, yeah, offensively, they are elite. But they have not been covering the big spreads until they did against Purdue, against good teams. And we can argue whether or not Purdue is a good team or they get up at home for top 5 teams. Against Nebraska, they weren't able to cover the spread. Against Penn State, they weren't able to cover the spread. And those two teams aren't exactly great teams this season and aren't very good offenses. So I feel like 19.5 is a lot of points to give Ohio State, but I do also worry about the big talk with Mel Tucker and the contract stuff this week.
Right.
That there could be a little bit of a distraction, that maybe Michigan State isn't up to the task, but everything's still on the line for Michigan State. So I would be stunned if they weren't at least a little focused on this game. I just can't see myself giving Ohio State 3 touchdowns to Michigan State. I just can't. I just don't feel like I trust this offense enough. And by the way, Michigan State's offense isn't bad either. So let's not just act like it's just the old Michigan State. Like, they're pretty good offensively. Ohio State's pretty good offensively. Defensively, both teams can leave a lot to be desired. I think there are going to be a ton of points. I don't know if there's going to be 70, but I feel like I can't give Ohio State 3 touchdowns against Michigan State. I will not be the one to make that mistake.
I agree. All right, huge game. All right, I'm going to editorial comment here, Arkies. SMU at Cincinnati, it's minus 10.5. Total 64.5. Look, I go by what I see. I saw Cincinnati in person early in the year. I was okay with them. If I'm on this committee, they got to beat the hell out of somebody at some point. in my opinion. Now, I know SMU, they started out great. Their defense is horrible. Their offense scores points. This should be a high-scoring game. But do you agree, Cincinnati, if you want to be in the college football playoff, you got to beat the hell out of some of these teams?
I've been saying this since the Notre Dame win. Like, that was the win to get them onto every single person's radar. And then they had to eventually, hopefully at some point, whether it's Tulsa or Navy or somebody they needed to destroy, to eliminate any type of doubt. And they haven't done it. Like, they let South Florida back in the game last week and make that game look a lot closer than it actually was throughout the majority of it. Like, when we're looking at the committee and they're paying attention to Cincinnati, they're not watching Cincinnati, South Florida. You know how I know? Because they literally said, when it comes to Michigan State, put aside watching the games, look at the stats. It's like, what the hell are you talking about, right? So they're not watching Cincinnati, South Florida, okay? I'm only one because I have money on the over. That's it. I'm the only dude watching it, okay? So if you're going to put me on the committee, I can make a case for Cincinnati. But outside of that, like, they needed to beat the crap out of somebody, and they haven't yet. And this is the best opportunity, too. Desmond Ridder can light SMU up. That pass defense for SMU is atrocious. And they need to come in with a sense of kill in their eyes because there's only 2 games left plus the conference championship. And they have to start looking good. They're at number 5. The committee, the chair, Greg Bard, has said that they're in a solid position. There's no debate who number 5 is. So they've got to take the debate out even further when it comes to one of the teams ahead of them will lose at some point and be there to take advantage of it. I cannot see SMU winning this game. But I don't think I can see Cincinnati blowing them out either because they haven't. But I will say that the thing that I like the most about this game still is probably, sadly, even though I want to fight for a group of 5 team in the college football playoff, I think SMU is going to be able to keep this within a single digit. The teams that SMU that Cincinnati struggles with are teams that can sort of control the ball one way or the other, whether it's through the ground or through the air. They don't play a lot of balanced teams that sort of give them trouble. This SMU team slings it, man, and that is a way that if things are going right for you, you can find yourself in a really good position to be there at the end of the game. Now, the bad news is on the other side, if it's not going right, you could be down 21-3 at the end of the first quarter real quick. But I don't think this Cincinnati team has got that kind of bloodlust in their eyes. I think they just think they should win, and however they do win should count, and I agree with them, by the way. But, like, my big love is on the over on this game. The over, 49.5? 64.5.
64.5, yeah, 64.
Yeah, I think that's going to go over in this game, but more importantly, I think SMU is going to be able to keep this game with a single digit. I haven't seen it. And how do you bet on Cincinnati to do it when you haven't seen them do it?
Hey, look, when I saw Cincinnati play Indiana wasn't horrible yet, but Indiana beats them.
Yeah.
They had to come back twice in that game and survive a freshman kid, Timmy Baldwin's fumble by Indiana on the 2-yard line. So I walked out of there saying, you know what, though, truthfully, Archie, I saw Michigan State play in person against Indiana, and I walked out of there saying, if they're in the top 10, then the top 10 stinks. But I don't think they stink, but that's, I don't know. Yeah. Hey, man, I got to – huh?
I'm sorry, I was going to say Cincinnati's going to be without Jerome Ford, who's got 600 more rushing yards than their number 2 running back of the team. Like, I don't know how you fall in love with Cincinnati other than the fact that they don't lose. I mean, it's just they've got to punch somebody in the mouth.
Which is a good fact. I mean, other than the fact that I'm with you on it, but hey, I don't believe the whole every game counts. A lot of guys are saying, well, if every game counts, Cincinnati should be in there. Well, so should UTSA. I mean, nah.
Don't even get me started. Don't even get me started, man. Dude, how do you have an undefeated team at any level of football 20 spots below, and 5 and 10 spots below 3-loss teams, and below a 4? Like it's this committee clearly has a bias, and if we're going to play with the bias, Cincinnati knows that that's in there. They have to beat the crap out of a ranked team. That's it. That's just it.
That's my final thought. What's your final thought? That's my final thought. Cincinnati beat the hell out of somebody, and Oregon is on upset alert. I think Oregon goes down at Utah. You got a final thought on it?
Yeah, Oregon, Utah. I'm going to fade you on that one. I like Oregon on this. So we like to fade Dan Dakich, right? I really like Oregon. Oregon has to have this game. Utah can still get a rematch with Oregon if they win next week, if they lose this game. But if they win this week, they'll have the tiebreaker against Arizona State, and they'll go back to the Pac-12 championship game. But I like Oregon in this one. I like Oregon to get the W and keep themselves in the college football playoff for very tightly contested.
All right, Lauren and Stephanie, let's clip that. And when I win, I'm going to wear my we'll have Archie on if you can. If you want to, come on next week. And I'll wear my crown and my cape and crown myself king, because I think Utah beats the hell out of them. I don't think they beat the hell out of them. I think they beat them. I beat the hell out of them. No. Just beat them. Beat them by 1. But I'll have my crown on next week. Thanks, Archie. Appreciate you, man.
I appreciate you, Dan.
All right, that was fun. That's Archie Shea. He outkicked the bets. It's good stuff, man. Hey, this has been a fun week. I want to thank all my guys, Jody Shelton, George Monahan, the Cash Man. You kidding me? All you guys on Twitter, the Judge, Indy Judge, the Prez, Sean Black, of course, Stephanie and Donnie and Lauren getting this whole thing set up. Jim Harbaugh joined us here on the chat. Joe to the C, all my guys, Greg Alexander, Dave Carroll. Appreciate all of you. Appreciate all of you that are working behind the scenes, putting us up. I know Lauren's all over the YouTube all over the Twitter. And I thank you all very, very, very much. Deep State got us twice. We're going to be back at it on Monday. I think next Friday is the last Friday that we won't have a show. After that, we will on Fridays. Thanks for everybody for joining us. Hope you've had a good time this week. You can see me again 12 to 3 coming up at 1075thefan.com. Let's go. Let's have a weekend, everybody. Stay safe.